I actually don't know whether it's going to be 3-0, 3-1, 3-2. I don't feel like I can make any sort of reasonable prediction.
I don't know if these guys are bantering the lobby or not, but as soon as we have loaded into this game, they both fired at Good Luck Have Fun as quickly as possible. And Future thought it was really funny that he was slightly quicker. Let's hope we close out strong today, because today I don't think it's been a bad day when it comes to some of the games we've seen, but obviously we hope for a little bit more drama when it comes to close series, epic comebacks. We haven't really seen too much of that, so let's hope we truly saved the best for last today. In the bottom right side of Berlingrad, we are looking at the main base of the American Protoss player. It is PiLiPiLi.
In the upper left here in the red, he is the future of Terran himself for Alpha X. Future. Although, Roddy, I'm so disappointed every time I cast Future, because his name is Future, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't play Protoss, so therefore we cannot talk about Oracles of the Future. Like, this makes me so sad on a daily basis.
I mean, it's funny as well when you call him the future of Terran. Well, I kind of agree with Zombie Grub, and it's like, I kind of feel both of them peaked a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But they are just naturally talented video gamers, and even if they take a little break, they will still have the skills. There was that one season where Future did not even make it into the DreamHack Masters, and I thought that was really sad, because there was a time where he made it into the top 4, right? And he was in the upper bracket. That's like, we know that he was capable of that, and it's even him and Australia at one point, they were coming up at the same time, right? And Australia was the next hope of Protoss besides Neep. And Future was supposed to be that one North American titan joining Neep and Scarlet. Unfortunately, didn't quite live up to the hype, but definitely had his moments throughout the years. And he does seem to be enjoying StarCraft a whole lot more again right now than he did a while ago. And hopefully that will show in this best of 5.
That he did. For a while, actually, at the start of this year, he was streaming weekly, bi-weekly, and he was playing all these online events. It was starting to get, oh, wow, Future's back. And then he pulled back from that a little bit. I don't know whether that was to prep for DreamHack or whatever else was happening. Actually, when I was talking to him yesterday, he was like, yeah, I'm not telling you anything. Players watch these things, and I don't want to give anything away. So it sounds like he is certainly prepping really hard for this series. And the Reaper's going to dive in now, and it's going to get a probe to start, as it does not quite hide itself in gas fast enough. Okay. Look at this. PiLiPiLi, that's a rather quick robo.
Yeah, Pili is crazy, man. He's always been crazy. I will never forget that one Katowice. The Reaper does find another probe. Ooh. I know it's double Reaper, but there was this one Katowice where Pili actually had a great showing before the pandemic. Took out one of the Korean Protosses in the group stage, caused a bit of havoc, was very close to even advancing. It was just a great time all around to be a Pili fan and watch his journey. Obviously, he stepped away from the game at one point for a bit, but he's always had very crazy and unique builds, man. These Reapers, by the way, are finding some value, as a Hellion is going to show up in the natural too. Man, this is really sweet play. Future is running circles around PiLiPiLi at this point.
Literal circles around his Nexus at the very least. Now, of course, the shield battery is done, so the Hellion should not kill any of those probes by itself, but still, I believe that is 8 total probes have died in the early game for...
Insane.
What? A single Reaper? And the Hellion gets out too. But PiLiPiLi, he's doing that thing. He's doing that thing that actually made him look really good against Vindicta in that final series to determine who was in top 4 and who was in bottom 4 in group, or who was in the top of Group B. No, sorry, 3rd and 4th place, where he's going disruptor drops. And he's been looking really good with those, actually.
Yeah, but I think it's very good against the 3-racks or like something like that. Maybe against the Widowmine opening, it can be all right, but it's a nightmare to clean up Widowmine drops if you go for a build like this. Like, it's strong offensively if your opponent is just sitting at home, trying to deal with it, and the fact that you have barely units on your side of the map is like, oh, that's okay, I can get away with it. But whether it's a Colossus or a Disruptor, you don't really have a lot at home, and like the Widowmine drops are going to be difficult to deal with. Good news for PiLiPiLi is that the first Widowmine drop shows up now. Bad news is that he really doesn't have a lot of firepower. Will take care of the mine in the natural, but there is another one in the main, and that's going to cause at least a lot of lost mining time. I love the on-burrow too. I mean, Future is looking pretty damn good so far, and PiLiPiLi is not having the best of times.
Well, oh yeah, he's going to be able to save the Widowmine. Never mind. PiLiPiLi was making me scared though with that with the observer positioning. If Future had been able to mine just or burrow just a little bit faster, that would have been a dead observer too. Which there's no armory, so it's not the end of the world, but still rather frustrating. And Rotterdam, one of the things we're going to have to look out now that PiLiPiLi, his disruptor drop, graphitic drive just about done. He's going to move on the map. There's a Raven out now, which means that if you're not careful with where you drop your disruptor, where you make something happen, the warp prism can just be disabled, and then suddenly you lose that disruptor, you lose the warp prism, you lose both. And from this game state where PiLiPiLi is already behind because he's lost 9 probes to that early game harass, well, it just gets even worse. So for now, disruptor drop into the natural. He's looking for something. There's a tank here, though. Future, that is not a good split. 6 workers fall.
Yeah, that's a very good shot. I think actually if you don't split and you just let it, it's very hard to kill 6 SCVs with a single Nova there. So that went about as well as it possibly could have gone for PiLiPiLi, and it finally gives him a little worker lead. I mean, if you compare the worker count before that shot went off to that previous best of 5 we just saw, where the Protoss at any given moment was 10, 12, or even 16 workers ahead, this time around PiLiPiLi was behind economically, which just goes to show double Nova on a tank is good enough to kill a tank and actually puts the depot on fire too. I mean, so far now, Pili is finding some success, and Future is by nature a very aggressive Terran. This might not actually be the right moment to be aggressive, though, against the 2-base Protoss that has a Speed Prism, has a Colossus, and still has those 2 Disruptors, as we're going to look for another Nova on those Marines. Slow Marines and tanks have a very hard time avoiding Novas.
And that they are. But for now, again, Future, he's active on the map just a little bit. The problem, though, is it is hard for this unstimmed army to avoid Disruptor Novas. Colossus are joining the field as well, so this Marine tank composition, if the tanks siege, they're happy, but if they don't siege, suddenly the army does drop down. But there we go, from the great disable there from Future. He's going to deny all the damage, and it means now these Stalkers are going to fall, but second Disruptor shot going off, and he's going to get the tank. But man, Roddy, that first one looked like it was going to be so good.
Yeah, I know that was a sick matrix, but I still don't really understand the move out when we don't have stim, we don't really have a lot of micro potential, and we know that our opponent does have micro potential because of that speedy prism. I don't think it really made a lot of sense. I don't think the game should end because of it, because PiLiPiLi did not play a super economic style. The third Nexus is very late. We need to be careful, but at least this time around we have stim. Oh, the Marines kind of running into a Colossus though. Can they kill at least one of the Disruptors? Nice matrix again to prevent that ball from going off. Would have loved to see him stim there and kill the Prism, because the Prism was very exposed. I mean, this is a messy game so far, Beowulf.
That it is, but we wouldn't want anything else. And messy games give us interesting games. Maybe they give us not a 3-0, but it doesn't feel like right now PiLiPiLi is going to be able to push through here. Yeah, the Disruptors are scary. Yes, Colossus are scary, but the lack of charge does kind of mean that as these tanks finish up, as they siege up, it is just really hard to get on top of this Terran army. So third base is on the way. Eventually, we're going to get there. PiLiPiLi has this third done. And you've promised me a macro game like 3 games in a row now, Roddy, but it looks like we're finally going to get that one.
Well, I mean, I was hopeful on Glittering, Berlingrad. I don't think I actually said it. Blackburn, I think it qualifies as a macro game, right? It was just an 18-minute game, and it ended with 7 carriers. If that ain't macro, then I don't know if we're ever going to... And 3-3 upgrades. Come on now, mate. Give me a break. Like, that was a macro game.
Fair enough. 1 out of 3.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's going to be 2 out of 4. Okay. Well, we'll give you credit where credit's due. That's fine.
With Future, I would never promise you anything, because that man is kind of the Terran equivalent of Trigger. He really loves to end games. He is so hyper-aggressive. There are so many moments where maybe just taking it a bit chiller as a Terran would be a better decision. But Future loves to fight. He loves to attack.
And he does. Oh, big disruptor shot. They're going to knock down 2 tanks. But the army is orange, which means it is not beefy whatsoever. Shield battery overcharge, keeping things alive for right now, though, as Future, he's looking to pressure in. But this army, while it's big, it doesn't feel like the type of army that is going to be able to break PiLiPiLi right now. In this group stage, though, we have seen Future absolutely take advantage of just being able to move around this position. Now he finds his way into the high ground. Disruptor shot 1 is going to go way wide. Vikings starting to shell away at the Colossus, and now PiLiPiLi, he's zoned out of his natural position. He's trying to find his way up the ramp. 1 Colossus falls. The Vikings, though, they're all going down. The second Colossus looks like it will not die, but still, there are plenty of Marauders in this army. Good flanks coming in from PiLiPiLi, and the addition of the DTs should be enough here to make something happen. Not really sure what that Warp Prism is for, but fine. It's going to join the fray anyways, and this army of Future gets cleaned up. At the end of the day, though, kind of an even trade.
Chaos. That's what it was. Nice little save, at least, on 2 of those Dark Templars, as they are still inside of the prism and they're going to fly into the main base. There is a missile turret near the main, though, so that should at least grant some detection. I mean, that was a pretty chaotic fight where I think both players had their moves. As PiLiPiLi is not done yet, he just wants to keep on fighting. He really doesn't have that much in the front, but the main base, that should be somewhat promising. You don't want to donate your Colossus, though, and just a couple of Marauders with Stim could be enough, but it's not going to be enough because of the DT, and suddenly the supply of Future has absolutely plummeted, and just like that, this game ends. Wow, that was a roller coaster. That was a proper NA roller coaster, where Pili does take the 1-0 lead after 11 minutes. I don't know what I just saw, man.
Shower builds. That's what you saw. The rain of Protoss comes. He has one of those rainfall shower heads, right? So you just got the rain of Protoss come tumbling down. Is that a reach? Absolutely, but it was very much a seesaw game. Those are the type of games that Berlingrad kind of tends to give us, though, because of how quick the rush distance is. I'm going to be curious to see whether the players, they do opt for these aggressive push me, pull you, seesaw back and forth styles, as we do move on to maybe something a little bit longer, a little bit more open, or actually maybe more choked off as, say, we move on to Hardwire.
I mean, definitely a frustrating one for Future, where he had a phenomenal start, killing 8 probes that early in the game against the 2-base Protoss. He was pretty quickly aware of the disrupted drop 2, and of course the first Nova killed a few too many SCVs, but I don't think any of that was bad. It's just the initial move out with the first 2 tanks. It's like, why are we making that move out? Like, yeah, sure, there is a Raven, but it would be so hard to really ever get ourselves in a great spot, then disable the Novas coming down, and somehow get in range of probes. Like, that wasn't the move out. Like, if he just waits until he has Stim, he has a much better time dealing with the very tiny army that PiLiPiLi was working with at that point.
I mean, that was such a great snap disabled too there on the Disruptor, because that was a Nova that he had no way of dealing with, that was on his entire army. So we saw him flirt with the disaster, and he backs up. Really, he doesn't take a horrible trade, but maybe not what he would have wanted. And then he trades what felt like fairly evenly in the middle. He killed, I think, he killed 2 Colossus, knocked down some Disruptors, but he just wasn't ready for the swing back. And that is, again, what Berlingrad gives you, where you have to be ready not only to even just trade the fight evenly, you need to be ready to deal with the return pressure, and that didn't quite happen. So game 1 now, it does go to Pavel Pilichenko. PiLiPiLi, the man with the best name, at least the best name to talk about in North America.
No, that's Max Angel, mate. Come on now.
No. PiLiPiLi, like the in-game name.
Okay.
Like, come on, like PiLiPiLi is more fun to say than Estrella.
Yeah, but Max Angel is the coolest name.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, let's see what game 2 has in store for us. I hope it's more of the roller coaster that we saw in game 1, because that really was all over the place. Speed Prism really coming in handy, not just by saving those DTs that were on top of that one tank that was participating in that fight, but then he just flew it straight into the main base, unloaded the DTs, warped in a couple Zealots, and Future supply went from 100 to 50 real damn quick. Game 2, Hardwire in the top right side. We're looking at the main base of the Protoss, who has taken the 1-0 lead. It's PiLiPiLi.
His opponent for Alpha X, he played a chaotic game. Let's see if it can be a chaotic victory in this second game. He is Future. Alrighty. Whenever I want to feel calm, centered, collected, I go and I look at Future's Twitter page, because you see people go and they have they'll have their tagline, pro gamer for XYZ, I did whatever, and then we have Future, and his Twitter tagline is I exhale the yellow smoke of the Buddha as I walk through righteous steps, or something like that. And you're like, all is right in the world there, Future. Thank you. You've centered me.
Never noticed, but I believe you, and no idea what to make of that.
I don't know either. But you talk about centering and calming ideas. Future's idea in this game, it's not centering. It's not calming. In fact, it's a barracks kind of on the other side of the map.
Yep, PiLiPiLi does scout this relatively quickly. He already has a probe in the main base. You do want to keep this probe around, because you want to see if the factory is going to go down in the main or not. If the factory goes down, you're like, all right, it's going to be annoying. A couple of quick Reapers. I'm going to have to micro my probes for a bit. Hopefully the bunker won't be too annoying, but that is it. If you don't see a factory go down, you're like, whoa, all the alarm bells go off, and you're like, what else is out there?
It's a brave new world. The probe is going to try to deny this. Now we're going to look for the SCV to try to... Yeah, he's found that spot where you just sit behind between the mineral lines, and then the Zealot does not kill it off. Bunker gets up regardless of what's happening. A bit of poor RNG, though, because now the SCV is on the outside, but he gets it again. Okay. Okay, Future. There we go. But with the Reaper arriving now, the Zealot its life is maybe forfeit, depending on what Future wants to do, but he's just going to live in the bunker. I'm surprised we don't see him on the main base just yet, but I guess he's rather wary of that Stalker timing.
Now, that bunker is in range of the shield battery, though, and there should be a second Reaper on the way. If that second Reaper gets into the bunker as well, this is going to be really annoying for PiLiPiLi, who did also end up losing his probe on the other side of the map before that factory actually went down, as the observer Njal, who's done a great job, of course, today, as always, showed us there. Okay, the SCV does get picked up relatively quick, so the shield battery won't go down, but the double Reaper in the main should at least kill one probe. Maybe we can get 2 probes, but we don't want to lose both Reapers, that's for sure.
Man, great citizens arrest there from PiLiPiLi, blocking them out. Now we're going to see the grenade go off. Second one as well. Reaper!
Oh!
Not be okay. Oh, man, I got baited out there, Roddy.
Yeah, no, the grenades were pretty sick, and I actually thought at one point, it's like, wow, is it going to live? But it was not going to live. PiLi's economy, not great, though. He really skips out on producing probes for a split moment there, as it's 25 against 25. He will once more drop the robot, but this time around, he's actually going to drop a very quick Twilight Council too. Overall, I think PiLi did handle the early game quite well, because it can be very annoying when that bunker is up in range of your shield battery. If you lose the battery, it can become really awkward. But I think so far so good for the man who has taken the 1-0 lead.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't really take much damage from this. He kills the Reaper. He's going to get the Zealot, which sure is nice, but Roddy, that Zealot was built to die. It is just built to buffer time and eventually trade his life away. So you're not really too upset about that as PiLiPiLi. And behind this, yeah, you said the Twilight is done. Additional gateways on the way. So it looks like it will be 3-gate Blinka, that nice middle of the road build between I'm going to go wholesale 4-gate Blinka. I'm going to kill you right now. And please don't hurt me. I only have 2 gates. I want to expand quickly.
But he does have the robot, and that's the most important thing here, because the observers are going to grant detection against the Widow Mines, and this time around those Widow Mines are going to be the permanently cloaked boys that we got to know and love, mostly from Spirit in this season of the DreamHack Masters Europe. It's an interesting route. Somehow it avoids the Stalkers. Okay, this could be pretty good, because that first observer is out on the map. The second observer is a bit misrallied too. PiLi is not quick to react, but actually only ends up losing 1 probe. Is he paying attention in the main base? The answer is yes, but this is still going to be pretty annoying.
And not as bad as it could be, certainly, as the observer. Actually, there are 2 observers on the map, but where are they? They're not here just yet. They're on the other side. So yeah, this cleanup's a little more complicated than we thought it was.
That's crazy, because the first medevac actually, I mean, both of those mines are going to fire again, man. Oh, no. I think it's going to fire. It's going to fire. It's going to fire. No.
The second one, though, that's got more of a shot here, running away from the Zealot, but looks like actually Future's not going to make something happen with that. But now Widow Mines into the natural here, looking for more damage than their brethren did. Probes are pulled. Oh, that's getting a little bit scary. Oh, he gets it downtown. 5 workers die.
Yep, and the other one hasn't fired yet. He could retarget a little bit. He doesn't, and he fires into the assimilator. That's very unfortunate. There was no observer again there, by the way. Where's observer number 3? It's still in the main base, on top of that other Widow Mine. And it would have been lovely to see Future retarget there for a split second on those probes that were transferring in the gas, because then he could have fired at a Stalker or even at those probes that were already being brought back to mine again.
That he could have. Now, we got to point out, it looks like PiLiPiLi is fixing it, but for a moment, man, Future just outside of his natural, the most heavily observed place on the map right now. It feels like, I don't know, what some place in Washington, D.C. or London, you know, super bugged. But another drop's going to try to find its way in once again. PiLiPiLi not really noticing it just yet, but the Stalkers are here, so they just snap it down at no value.
That was very good defense, but it's still a 6-minute third base of only 45 probes. No forge. That really isn't all that great, but that does help, because that's also going to give him the confidence to immediately run towards the other side of the map. And PiLi says, all right, mate, you are annoying on my side. Now it's my turn. Now I'm going to try to be annoying on your side of the map.
So let's see what he can do. He does have 3 gateways, so much more warp in potential than your standard 2-gate. Oh, he's going to find the Raven as well. And auto turret gets force, but already is going to be a win here for PiLiPiLi. It means the Raven represents less damage on the other side of the map right now. So Raven doesn't get much of anything, takes 50% HP, And PiLiPiLi, though, he's doesn't really have his aggression started in earnest just yet. Stalker's on the bottom side, I guess looking for a drop, or maybe a Raven, but he doesn't find that one. Does find value, though, on the top side.
Yeah, when he was splitting up all his Stalkers, I'm like, man, this is insane spider sense. But then I was like, all right, in the bottom right side, at least he looks silly because there was absolutely nothing there. But he did find it Raven. He might find it again. He might kill it here. No, Future is paying attention. I mean, this game is definitely not bad for Future, especially not if Future just starts building Widow Mines. I really think Widow Mines are way, way, way better than tanks here because it does seem like Pili is going to be very heavy on the gateway units.
That he is. I mean, going to Dark Shrine before any sort of Robo Bay, even before a Templar Archives or some sort of Chargelet Archon mid-game setup is rather interesting. But now the Stalkers just blinking on forward. They're just trying to delay this push from Future as long as possible to get Charge to complete, which is done now, to get +1 done. Although I don't know that that's going to be ready in time for this push. Just zoning out, delaying the push from Future as much as possible, so PiLiPiLi has as much as possible on the defense.
Yep, and the army supply is somewhat close. There are 5 extra gateways being wiped in. I gotta say, very good kiting. Has shaved off quite a few Marines. This is really solid play. And Charge is done. We do have 2 Immortals, but only 4 Zealots. Future needs to siege up right now. He doesn't want to get too close. Like, if he has the Widow Mines burrowed here, this would be an easy win, but the Widow Mines is still stuck inside of the Medevac. We are gonna drop the other turrets, though. This is a bit of a weird fight. Widow Mines could make the difference. And they get a nice connection, at least on one of the Stalkers, and also softens up the Immortal.
Those were some massive Widowmine shots there, knocking down all the shields on one Immortal. But because of the force fields and because of the fight that PiLiPiLi took at the start of that fight, it just was really hard for Future to capitalize on the fact that there was not a lot of shields, that the Widowmines found value. But here comes round 2, and Future, he's at 40 army supply. This is not the easiest hold for PiLiPiLi right now. So he's going to target down 1 Immortal, but not getting it just yet. Widowmines look to burrow once again, and they're targeting on the Immortal. So 1 falls, second one rather low, but we don't have the full army of Future here right now. Here come the reinforcements, though, rallying on in. He's up double the army supply. Immortals are going to get saved here, Roddy, but there is nothing really on the ground to defend this.
Pili really overly aggressive there with so much money in the bank, and all of his gateways just finished up. I'm like, man, we have 10 gateways. How the hell did we float 1,700 minerals since we're going to warp in a couple of Zealots now? And we're rallying DTs, but he just has nothing because he can't spend his money. If he would have chrono boosted the gates for a split second, I'd just be slightly more patient. I mean, we do have the DTs running to the other side of the map, and they can create some chaos, but it is so painful to have this much money in the bank while you're getting pushed by, honestly, a relatively small army. Because imagine like 8 more Zealots in some of these previous fights. It would have been a very one-sided affair.
That it would have. I love what we have Future done here. He understands that maybe the only way he would lose the game at this point is with DT. So missile turrets went down at some point in the last minute or so. And now it really is all, he can use scans aggressively here. So nothing to negate the army of Future. And he runs forward once again. The supply lead is kind of disgusting at this point. And there we have it. Roddy, for the second time today, it's not going to be a 3-0.
No, this was never going to be a 3-0. That was like kind of impossible. These guys are way too chaotic, way too hectic for it. But this was looking promising at one point for Pili. Like at first I was like, okay, it's a bit of a disaster. But then these fights weren't that bad. And he was only down like 20 army supply at one point. And he was already sitting on 1,200 minerals. But he had 10 gateways. So I'm like, this is going to be fine. But he actually blinked forward with 4 or 5 Stalkers while having 1,700 minerals. That's when you heard me say no. Because if he would have just saved those Stalkers, he saves the Immortals, he wipes in Zealots, he does not die there, and then we have a completely different game on our hands. So, bit unfortunate for Pili. He didn't quite see those reinforcements come in, so maybe he thought all that's left is like 2 Marauders and 2 Marines. I'm just gonna blink forward, but he really had too much money to make a forward blink.
Yeah, Roddy, unfortunately, he blunk. That wasn't a blink, that was a blunk. But new game, new day, new chance to make something happen. I think you're right. Absolutely. If he spends his money, he has a much easier hold. And then we're still talking about this game.
Yep.
And as we saw, eventually PiLiPiLi in game 1 was able to start finding really good fights and get tons of harassment done and start to wear the map apart. And in general, Future's strength is in his early to mid game. So, maybe if he holds that, maybe we are looking at a 2-0 PiLiPiLi lead. I don't know. But I do know that 2,000 Atmospheres is going to be our 3rd map here today. We've seen zany Pili builds. We've seen interesting aggression from Future. Does game 3 get a little more standard, or are we still going absolutely bonkers?
I refuse that these guys can play a standard game. Like, they are too crazy for that. Historically, they've been crazy. And now towards, like, I don't want to say the tail end of their careers, but I don't think these guys are really feeling too many nerves because they've been here. They've done that. They have played into these DreamHack events in the past when they were, like, full-time and really doing their absolute best. Now they're like, let's play our best StarCraft and hopefully we win. So I think they're pretty relaxed about it, but they still can play standard and normal because they just like to be crazy. And that's why I was actually very excited for this series. And so far, I'm not disappointed because with one or two things going different, these games could have played out in a super different manner. Like PiLi could have had the third Nexus 2 minutes quicker. And if he would have just kept that second observer at home, he would have been able to deal with those Widow Mines a lot quicker as well. And it would have been a completely different game, but maybe we wouldn't have been talking about it anymore because he would have just won at that point. So who knows, but it's definitely entertaining so far.
Roddy, yeah, you're right. These games are the type of thing where I don't know, and I don't think you know either, who's going to win until the game ends, pretty much. I mean, at certain points, yeah, sure, 80 supply to 10. Okay, yeah, that one is pretty much over. But up until that one big line of inflection, that great point, it is, yeah, Future could win this, PiLiPiLi could win this. It really depends on how they execute the next minute or so. But we're now into game number 3 here to determine who moves to series point. And in the bottom left now, for Genesis Gaming with that lion's mane on the tag, he is PiLiPiLi.
And in the top right side of the beautiful 2K atmosphere, we are looking at the main base of the man that's representing Alpha X. Once more, sending out one of the boys relatively early. This is Future. Where are we going to build the barracks biomorph?
I'm going to say right outside the third base there of PiLiPiLi, or not at all. And this is just a weird scout because there's a barracks down at home. And he wants to make sure that PiLiPiLi isn't max paxing him or something like that. So
eBay?
No proxy barracks. Instead, eBay block is going to be the name of the game. And, well, we saw Vindicta do that one time in the last series. And we got to remember, for quite a while now, Future and Vindicta have been teammates. So it makes sense that maybe that's something Future looks to go for here.
And Trigger mentioned in the interview that he expected that to be a possibility, so that's why he was checking for it, and that's why he was able to deny it relatively quickly. PiLiPiLi did not see this go down immediately, so this is actually going to be a bit awkward. Future trying to be really annoying there, and even for a split second attempted on taking one of the gases. That would have been really awkward. You got to see that PiLi had a probe too many on one of his gases. That pylon is kind of late, by the way. I don't know if that matters that much, but he's not building any probes at this point, so very late second pylon. PiLi is thrown off by this start from Future.
And sometimes, especially when you are of players of the standing of PiLiPiLi in Future, that PiLiPiLi has a full-time job. He has a second laptop next to his setup, so he goes and he plays his DreamHack match, and then he goes back to work. At least that's what he did the other day when you all interviewed him. You know, when you're a player of that standing, you know, maybe you aren't familiar with the crispest timings at this level. You're good enough to do well in DreamHack Masters NA because you just have that latent skill, but maybe not up to date with every single thing, which then means that if I'm your opponent, doing things that mess up your early game plan, that is perhaps more valuable than doing it to someone, say, Trigger, who plays 40 games a day.
Mm-hmm. Future is going to go for the 3-Rex, by the way. That's the first time today that we see the straight-up 3-Rex in TVP. And now the eBay makes a little more sense, because I actually think what he was hoping for is that PiLi would just be like, oh, that's kind of annoying, but I'll just take the base at 6 o'clock, or I'll just take the triangle. But if you do that, defending 3-Rex actually becomes even more difficult, because you can't really defend your main and that exposed base at the same time. How much did that Zealot see there? That Zealot saw the second barracks, sees the CC on the high ground. So that's a pretty good scout. But this is one of these moments where even if you scout and you're PiLiPiLi, you're like, uh-oh. Because like you play once a gate, fast expand, Phoenix. It's really hard to hold 3-Rex Biomorph. And I talk from a place with too much experience. Trust me, I'm traumatized. Like, this is very difficult. So I wonder how PiLi is going to defend this.
You know, Roddy, I'm sorry that this Game 3 is forcing you to interact with and confront your traumas, but do know that I'm here for you. And we will get through this together. Well, maybe. It depends on how well PiLi holds it, I guess, as one Reaper will go down. And even though seeing that second barracks on the command center on the high ground is, of course, primarily a result of going for the eBay block, there are some interesting, like, 2-1-1 almost quick stim builds that we have seen Ryung in particular go for. He did a lot of that at Katowice. So even that is not necessarily a confirmation that this is a 3-rack stim versus, say, the 2-1-1 idea, but certainly he will see the Marine Seer, and as the Phoenix dive into the main base, that is that final confirmation. But it's that final confirmation, at least as some of these Marines from Future, they're already on the map.
Yep, I mean, the Phoenixes should be able to lift one of them if they want to. Now, because Future went double Reaper, maybe this 3-Rex is a little bit less powerful than it otherwise could have been, because you can have way more units if you don't make 2 Reapers. But I still feel that if he just goes up to like 20 Marines, and then he presses Tim on the other side of the map, PiLi is going to have a very, very, very tough time dealing with this. Is that PiLi is actually the one moving out right now with 3 Adepts and 4 Phoenix. Like, out of all the things that I could think of against the 3-Rex, this is the craziest of them all. I mean, there's a bunch of Marines in the center of the map. The Phoenixes will lift a few Marines. Like, this is nice, because you're obviously reducing the Marine count, but it also means you don't have any lifts at home. And we are looking at not too many Marines, but enough Marines to really pack one hell of a punch. I don't think there is a Guardian Shield yet. Like, if Future stims in right now, PiLi is in trouble. PiLi is in real trouble.
Well, luckily for at least 10 seconds, Future cannot stim in, but I think in 10 seconds, you're still correct. PiLiPiLi desperately chronoing out an Immortal, but it feels like Future almost feels like he's gotten enough just by representing threat, by not allowing PiLiPiLi to build more Phoenix, by forcing him to build all these additional Zealots and Adepts and Sentries and Shield Batteries and all these things that you may or may not want, and you certainly will want eventually, but maybe not this early. And that means now that Future, he's able to grow a little bit more. Marauders are on the way. He's adding missile turrets to make sure that he doesn't have to worry about the Phoenix. But PiLiPiLi, second game in a row now, this is almost a 6-minute third base.
Yeah, I mean, this one I do understand, though, because taking it earlier against the 3-Rex, I think that's straight up suicide. So this one I can get behind a little bit. I find that Hallucinated Phoenix pretty crazy, because, like, you need a Guardian Shield. Like, extra Marines are making their way to the bottom side of the map. He has no Guardian Shield now. Like, I'm just as worried as I was a while ago. Maybe these Phoenixes can buy a little bit of time, but the Marines can also stim. I feel that this Terran army is so much more powerful than what PiLi has, but I really hope I'm wrong. Maybe we can get a great battery overcharge or a great force field, but there's a lot of firepower in this Terran army, and PiLi's army is very underwhelming.
It is a little bit scary, though, for Future to take this fight as he scans, finds the Observer, takes 2 scanners to do it, so that's a little expensive. But the moment he looks to run up a ramp, certainly without the medevacs as they join the army now, it gets terrifying, because then if the force fields are there, suddenly he gets sectioned off, he loses half the army, Immortal fires away from that powerful fire base, and then this, what truly is a terrifying army from Future, suddenly it is not nearly as powerful. So Future, what he's doing right now, he's just sharking around. He's trying to force PiLi's army from out of position just a little bit so he can find that stim in, so he can go and snap down all the Phoenix or get on top of the shield battery overcharge, whatever you want. The timing of this army, though, eventually it will end as Colossus join the field, but for now, this army is still terrifying, and now it looks like, yeah, PiLiPiLi or Future thinks that this is his time right as the Colossus arrives, looks to at least stem those Marauders, but the Marauder is just, actually both Marauders are just going to go down, and PiLiPiLi survived.
Yeah, but drop in the main base. Like, he survive, though? He's going to be forced to recall, but if he recalls, then his army is going to be very weak at the bottom right side. Like, I don't know if he really survived. That Colossus is so exposed, and it goes down immediately. That Immortal is not good enough. I don't think he survived at all. I think he's super dead as GG gets called and Future takes the 2-1 lead. I really think there were 1 or 2 moments where he could have stimmed when he threw down that double scan, first scan of the ramp and then the scan for the Observer. I'm like, he sees 3 Adepts, a Sentry without energy, and Immortal and 4 Phoenix. Is like, you win that fight. But Future's like, yeah, maybe I do, but maybe there's a random force field that comes in, or the Colossus just shows up. So why don't I wait until I have a few more units? Then I drop the main base, and he just had a way bigger and way more powerful army.
That was so unfortunate. The RNG, or just the positioning on the army when he decided to recall, meant that it was like 2 Widow Mines, I think, that just the Colossus shows up and just an immediate explosion. Colossus is down. You're not holding that one anymore. But folks, I know this is weird because we haven't had anything that's not a 3-0 today, outside of once, but we do need to go to a break after game number 3. But we'll be back, folks, for the final 2 games of this series. Fingers crossed. Welcome back, folks, here to maybe our last game of the day. I hope not. I want 5 games. I've been begging for it all day. Roddy has as well, but, well, Future's got some momentum on his side, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that last game was very convincing. I like the way he played it. Like, there's a lot of different ways to play the 3 racks. You can be crazy with it immediately with the first 15 units or even the first 10. But he just kind of kept on threatening, and then at PiLi, you're like, when is it coming? And then by the time it comes, you're like, whoa, that's actually a lot. You have a lot in my main. You still have a lot on the bottom right side too. It was a very well played game. So momentum definitely in Future's corner. But the next map is Blackburn. And that plays out in a very, very different way than 2K and some of the other maps that we have seen so far. So maybe you will get your wish and you'll get the 5-game series. It comes down to this man. What kind of crazy shower build does he have in store for us? In the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the American Protoss. It's PiLiPiLi.
His opponent's in the bottom right, in the red. He's 1 map away from a date with his teammate Estrella in the next round, folks. Put your hands together. It's Future.
That could be a very fun best of 5 as well, even though Estrella will come in, of course, as a big favorite. But Estrella can be a pretty chaotic player, and Future is also a very chaotic player, so I think it will make for a couple of very fun matches, and especially because once upon a time, they were the 2 hot up-and-comers in the NA scene. And I think Estrella obviously truly ascended into that big 3, even winning one of the DreamHack Masters events in 2020. 2021 he took top 3 every single season, but 2020 he did win one of them, took 2nd place at the other 2. Future made playoffs a few times, but was not quite able to crack into the top 3.
And we also got to remember when we look forward here a little bit, Estrella, he's been in Korea since like May 6th. You know, he's competing in the GSL. So while Future is certainly the significant underdog, Future will have that ping advantage, and Future, well, he doesn't have to hide builds for GSL. And I believe there is at least 1 Terran in Estrella's group. So I'm not saying that Estrella is going to opt to, or going to play worse to do better in the GSL necessarily, but that is going to be something in the back of his head, because I believe he's Group B in the GSL, and that starts rather soon.
Mm-hmm. No, I think especially the ping advantage could really matter, but at the moment I do think there is a pretty big skill gap between those 2. So I don't think Estrella is going to be shaking in his boots, because he has to play with slightly higher ping. But, you know, maybe if Future wins the first map, if Future wins this best of 5, of course, then it could become very fun. But we're getting too carried away. I especially think that Disc against Trigger series, though, that's really fun. Because for me, that really is the battle for who is the 4th best player in North America after the big 3. I think most people would agree with that statement. So that's going to be one hell of a PvP. Really excited to see those 2 duke it out. For now, let's see what these 2 have in store for us here in Game 4, as it's going to be a Star Gate opening once more. I do think that PiLi could have played the Phoenixes differently. I think ideally going Phoenix Twilight against 3 Rex is actually pretty good, because you can get charged very quickly. But I do think if you build Phoenixes, you want to kind of keep on building them, because Phoenixes get better the more you have of them. Goes for most units, but since it's a based energy unit, you obviously want to have more lifts available, and the more lifts you have with a higher amount of Phoenixes, the quicker you can kill stuff. If you only have 4, it's like, that's a really big investment, but you only really have 3 Phoenixes fighting if you lift the unit, so it's kind of a very odd number to stop at. And ideally, you want to go at least up to 5, 6, or 7.
Absolutely, more Phoenix are better than less Phoenix. And actually, I've been a big fan of what Stats started to do when he started iterating upon that Phoenix Colossus style, where you talk about going up to 7, he goes up to like almost like 8, 9, 10 Phoenix, or he did before he went to the military. And then just that allowed him to fight to use Phoenix for multiple fights, not just the one, I'm going to lift everything, all my Phoenix die. But in this game, with this Phoenix opener, I do tend to be a fan. But we do only have 3 Phoenix on the map right now, as this is a cool bit of pressure here coming in from Future, where he has a Widowmine drop and Hellions at the same time. It looks like he's going to just carpet bomb into the natural. The lifts, though, should be on time. PiLiPiLi. Oh, last second lift there. That got scary.
Yeah, that got really scary. A bit too close for comfort, but it's still a massive build order advantage for PiLiPiLi. Whenever you don't reveal the Phoenix and your opponent hasn't scouted yet, this is exactly the kind of stuff that you're hoping for. When they throw away a couple of units, where they just try to deal damage, and you're like, ha, got you, I've got Phoenixes. And this is just a much better build order scenario than the one in the previous game for Pili. And he gets himself, honestly, very far ahead. He can immediately go up to 3 bases at this point. There's really no need to be worried about anything after you just picked off a medevac. Well, he should have picked off the medevac. He was not able to, but you picked off the Widowmines and you've taken 0 damage. And you do want to capitalize on that little advantage you're creating for yourself.
Yeah, the medevac from Futures went on an absolute journey up through the top sides. You know, I'm going through the mountains and the valleys and over the hills and under dales to make sure that I get back home safely. And it finally does. But these Hellions from Future actually finding a little bit of value. They kill the probe that's trying to take the 3rd base. So PiLiPiLi, his 3rd is going to be delayed by about 20 seconds. And in this game, where, as you said, PiLiPiLi can go up to that 3rd immediately, where he does have that build order advantage, that is one way to just claw a little bit of a game back.
I kind of feel that the Robo Bay is a bit late too. Like, he was floating quite some gas. We have all 4 gases already. Like, obviously, whenever Pili is going to be forced to fight Future's army for the first time, you want to either have a whole bunch of Zealots with charge. Well, he's not going to have that. Or you want to have a bunch of Robo units. Like, you definitely need at least 1 Immortal, and then you want to have a Colossus to deal with those Marines. Like, I actually think it would make a lot of sense to build a 2nd Robo now. I think you can afford that with the 4 gases, especially going up to 3 bases. Because I think having 1 Robo is honestly cutting it very close. Like, he's getting 1 more gate, but what are we going to do with that gate? Like, we're going to warp in slow Zealots, slow Stalkers. None of that is going to be good against Tim Bio. Gets the Twilight Counselor now, but I actually would have really loved to see a double Robo. I think that would have made his style a lot better.
Yeah, I know. I'll buy that one. But instead, he says, I'm going to spend my gas on more Phoenixes, which are great as we move into the mid-game. But Future's not letting this game go to the mid-game. He's got a push happening right here. 1 Phoenix goes down. He gets just a little bit of damage on that medevac. And this army from Future, you said it, it is terrifying. The first Colossus is not even out.
No, that's really bad. Like, Pili needs to buy some time here. Maybe just force the tanks to siege up. But Future is very decisive. He knows where that Robo is. But he actually sieges the tanks right outside of that Robo. That is great news for Pili, because now Pili should be able, as another Phoenix gets misrallied, fly straight over the army. Missile turrets are going to go down. I'd say just run that Colossus towards the battery, activate battery overcharge, and fight. Like, fighting it right now is honestly your best choice. He's just going to go very far away from it, lift the tanks. Can the Colossus stay alive? That's kind of the big question. Yeah, that's a lot of Marines, though. That's a lot of Marines with a lot of firepower. Expert air units are going to show up. Oh, no, Pili, you had such a good start. But this is unfortunately going to be the end. Future will win this best of 5 and move into the next round after getting a 3-1